Wuchang Fallen Feathers is looking set to become a Game of the Year contender for 2025. Now, if you haven't heard about this game yet, you will likely soon. It is a dark and fantasy Souls-like story that follows Wuchang, a female pirate who awakens to amnesia and suffering in the final years of China's Ming Dynasty during a very chaotic era. In the story, darkness has befallen the land of Shu, and a phenomenon known as the feathering is causing mutations. You are thrown into an epidemic of plague and monsters, and you will have to overcome cruel and twisted enemies with various fighting styles, hidden weapons, ancient firearms, and even the power of the feathering to forge a path through flesh and blood towards the truth that is buried beneath it all. So that pretty much summarizes what you can expect from this title. Now, it is likely not one of the world's most exciting and original stories, but it is a title that does have a lot of potential. Now, while the developers compares themselves to Souls, many people get more of a Steller blade vibe. Now, as exciting as this game looks, a few things will likely happen as we move closer to the release date. There is a pair of giant elephants in the room, in addition to the fact that the game is from China. Now, over the last decade, Asian studios, especially and specifically Chinese studios, have really been taking the world by storm. Now, don't get me wrong, I do know that they have been dominating the gaming space for a lot longer than that, but a lot of the modern and even classic AAA games has always had an American spin, or at the very least a Western spin to it. This is something obviously that I don't have an issue with. They've created many classics, and I'm sure they will continue to make many more. On the other hand, you do have Asian companies like Nintendo and PlayStation, but even with them, they have made a massive shift to the West and America regarding how they run their studios and also the way that they tell their gaming stories. Maybe not Nintendo that much, but definitely PlayStation. They even primarily run out of California now. Now, there are also other players within the space, like for instance Tencent, which is one of the largest gaming organizations, if not the largest. However, even with them, it has been interesting to observe the type of plays that they make in the West. Now, over the last couple of years though, we have seen a more significant shift from Western AAA studios to more traditional non-Western stories and games. Top games with big massive budgets and stories usually have a European or an American-based story or value system. Now, some of those value systems have been questioned over the last few years. As the West have shifted more towards socially progressive values, gamers have been feeling a lot more alienated. Looks of women, pronouns, gender issues, and LGBTQ rights has been at the forefront of many big gaming studios, while Asian studios and Asian games have primarily stayed the same. Now, I'm not saying that I have anything against these type of issues, because I don't. I'm okay with them including and creating a welcoming space for everybody within gaming. However, we also cannot ignore that there is a massive focus on this and an equally enormous resistance to it. While Western style games does have their moments, it has become less acceptable to do things like fan service, for instance. This is when you use an attractive character as a selling point. This practice is pretty much as old as time. There is a very simple rule to fan service. You create a character that the fan base wants to be, or a character that the fan base want to be with. Now, this is just one of the many issues that is at the forefront of the internet debate currently. I grew up with America pretty much dominating the entertainment space in my country, All the series, the kid shows, the music, the movies, and all of the games pretty much just comes from them. That is mostly still true even to this day. However, with China now starting to enter the space in a massive way, there is a shift over to that market, and it is also very noticeable. Japan has done this effectively with gaming and also with anime. Through this, people have really come to admire their culture. Korea has also effectively done this with K-pop. After I saw Blackpink, I was ready to move to Korea to find my wife. Now, in a way, the release of Black Myth Wukong really did also change everything. Again, China has been in the space for a long time now, and they have been doing great, but with this game they managed to showcase their culture in a way that has people wanting more from it. On a personal level, I do still prefer the Americanized gaming versions, and I do like their culture overall a lot more. There is no place that I would rather want to visit than New York. However, I also cannot help but observe that there is a shift in sentiment more towards the Asian gaming markets, and that is the only point that I'm really trying to make. People do not like social conversations to be attached to some Western games. It is not uncommon for a large corporation to attach themselves to memes, to movements, or to conversations in order to sell more products. And also, just like that, it is not really unusual for activists to attach themselves to specific spaces in order to get more exposure for the messages that they are trying to spread. This is where a lot of the resistance is coming from, and it is now to a point where fans feel so alienated that they would instead just embrace a different culture rather than deal with the current one. It is not hard to understand why people would like Wuchang Fallen Feathers. Also notice how no one is accusing this game of being DEI. People love this game, and there is a couple of reasons for it. Character design is and always will be important, and on that one they definitely nailed it. Landscape and environment is also important, and this game very clearly beats that hurdle as well. The combat also looks great, and while I reserve the right to change my mind if the game comes out and fails to deliver, right now it does feel like this game is shaping up to be something special. It will also be interesting to see how the media treats this game, and if they are going to treat it the same way as they did with Black Myth Wukong. They tried to smear that game as much as they possibly could. They wrote horrible things about the studio and its developers. They accused them of sexism and a bunch of other things, and all of that obviously were just very clear lies, worst case scenario, or just a very misinformed version of what actually happened. With this title, you have a beautiful woman, so I'm sure that you are going to have some gaming outlets crying about that, but she's also not wearing any revealing clothes, so I don't really know how much crying they can actually do, but ultimately only time will tell how this game is going to play out.